Can a democratic socialist get elected president?
I think a democratic socialist can get elected anywhere across this country for any position. What I think we need to bring is a focus on working people.
If you're not paying, it's because somebody else is. And if you want to say it's the wealthy that's going to be paid, well, if they're taking their asses out of New York City, who's going to be here to pay it? Eventually, it'll trickle down to that middle class that was supposed to be being spared. And where's that going to leave the city? That is what Mamdani is speaking to. That is what he's focusing on. That is what is resonating. But in the end, what it's going to do is serve to divide the Democratic Party. It's not going to have any effect on the Republicans as it pertains to what their plan of action is, because they're going to ask you to choose between capitalism and socialism.
Smith is sounding the alarm on Democrats about just how dangerous Manny could be for the party. And they'd better be listening. This is one of their own, warning them that the very candidate they're rallying behind could end up wrecking the party worse than Kamala Harris and Joe Biden ever did. So, what exactly has Stephen Smith seen that's got him raising red flags? And how is the party reacting to it? We've lined up every clip you need to see. Feel free to share your take on what you're about to watch. Here's Stephen A. exposing.
Zohran Mamdani is coming. He's gaining traction. I am not a socialist, nor do I aspire to see socialism in the United States of America. I don't know anywhere in the world where true socialism has worked. I don't see it. I don't know where communism has worked. I don't see it. And I know the president of the United States is calling the mayor of New York a communist. No, he calls himself a socialist. That's what I'm going to go with. He's a democratic socialist. He swears it's working in New York City. I'm not so sure. But listen to Mamdani with this quote right here. Let me read this to you. Quote, I think a democratic socialist can get elected anywhere across this country for any position. I think we're seeing a hunger that is not just felt by New Yorkers, but frankly, by Americans from coast to coast for a new kind of politics, one that puts working people at the heart of it. This is what Mamdani is saying. He's talking about working people because he knows that's the language everybody wants to hear. He knows they're not interested in hearing anything else.
If you listen closely, you have caught exactly how Stephen A. Smith exposed Mamdani in real time. According to Smith, Mamdani is saying whatever resonates with the party's base, feeding them exactly what they want to hear without ever stopping to consider the long-term consequences it could have for the Democratic Party as a whole. Smith argues that Manny's socialist messaging is helping him build attention, support, and influence inside the Democratic Party. But here's the question that really matters. How is someone with that kind of messaging going to fare once they step onto the national stage facing a far broader and more divided electorate? That's the part Stephen A. digs into next. And what he reveals is something that could leave your jaw on the floor. Stick around, because this is where things get really
Up next.
If you're a Democrat in the United States, particularly in New York City, Zohran Mamdani is coming. And if he's coming, what does that mean for the rest of America? Because I got questions. Where has socialism ever succeeded? If so, tell us where that is. How is it going to succeed in New York? How are you going to sell that in a capitalistic society? You might do it in New York with young voters. What about the people in the suburbs? What about them? You really think this kind of message is going to resonate with them? Because, ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about here is this. If it resonates within the Democratic Party, but it doesn't have a snowball's chance of resonating in a general election, then you're basically handing the presidency to the GOP in 2028 as well.
That's exactly the point Stephen A. is driving home. He explains that America at its core is a capitalist society, one built on those principles for generations, and that fundamental reality doesn't just disappear because a message is popular in certain circles. While Mamdani's socialist rhetoric is clearly resonating with young voters within the Democratic Party right now, energizing a specific slice of the base, Stephen A. warns that the same messaging simply won't translate the same way once it hits the national stage, where the electorate is far more diverse and far less receptive to that kind of ideology. In fact, Stephen A. goes a step further, openly questioning how socialism could even function practically in a city like New York, let alone across the entire country. He is genuinely skeptical about the logistics of it all. And he lays out exactly why that skepticism matters for Democrats.
Yes.
Is he right? Affordability being a real problem? You're damn right he is. Is he right that the working class has been ignored? You're damn right he is. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last year, the top 1%, when you look at some of these people and what they bring to the table, about the top 10 richest people in the country, you know, they've generated nearly or more than $500 billion for themselves. Whereas over the last several decades, people have been lucky if they got a $9,000 raise, spanning decades. That is what Mamdani is speaking to. That is what he's focusing on. That is what is resonating. But in the end, what it's going to do is serve to divide the Democratic Party. It's not going to have any effect on the Republicans as it pertains to what their plan of action is, because they're going to ask you to choose between capitalism and socialism.